So, Trotzy, you've been an institution, come to be an institution in this town. You've been away for a couple of years. I mean, folks, for those of us that know Barry, I think perhaps one of the best examples, best buddies of Middle Tennessee, they owe their existence to you, and they have really made an impact in this community, largely because that's a cause you have shouldered, that's a cause you have championed, and you have impacted this community. Your legacy lives on today. All that to say, what's it like coming back? It's got to be a thrill.
It is a thrill. I'll be quite honest. Last year coming back, it was quite emotional. The first game back, I got a great reception. I know a lot of you out there were probably in the stands. I got all teary-eyed behind the bench. It was emotional. It was awkward, if you will. You didn't want to say it was awkward, but it was. Coming back to Nashville during the All Star celebration, I have a great feeling of pride, not only for the city, for the fan base, but when I started here in '97, without the team, and '98 we finally started to play some games. The first 5 years, to be honest, you didn't know if it was going to survive. You didn't know who was going to own it. You don't know if you were moving to Hamilton, Kansas City, what color uniform you were wearing. You had different uniforms. Every owner had their own deal going on, and it was a challenge. And I come back to see the All-Star celebration, staying at the Hilton. I'm looking right over Winter Park, the arena, the downtown, and to see how much it has grown. It gives me a sense of pride that I had just a small piece, and see it come full circle, to see it be here with growing roots, a passionate fan base every night, and turning that arena into the Coliseum, as my buddy Hitch would call it, and every Saturday night, and just see how the city has grown. But I've always said what makes Nashville is the people, and great people, great city, and I'm just glad to call it home.
Let's talk about the chapel program, at least your experience with it for a moment, Barry. When I arrived here, you were 3, maybe 4 years into it, Predators head coach. Didn't have a chapel program, and I think it was really through a conversation that I had with you and David. Yep. I'm grateful to you. You were willing to embrace it. But having had a chance to, watch Pike in the locker room, see the way these guys engage with him, and just the ministry that's kind of taken place over the year, I'd be curious to know, and I'm sure folks would be, in your estimation, what value do you see in the chapel program? What's that meant to you as you've had a chance to observe it?
Well, for me, obviously, any team that we've had or I've coached, chapel program is essential for a player. We're in a sport where you have to show strength, and a lot of times people think that go to chapel program, that you're talking about failures or weakness, that is a sign of weakness. And I actually was talking to Pike just a minute ago when we had the chapel program. I wanted to go to chapel program, so I went to chapel, and it got really quiet. And I said to Pike, I said to him, I want to be here, but I'm going to step out because I sense that you can't be the coach and the players are talking about weakness when in a sport where it is perceived to be a weakness, that you're talking about your failures or things that you're struggling with. And I was saying to Pike, it is actually a strength that you're able to talk about weakness. That gives you strength. That gives you something to lean on. So the chapel program is very important for the National Hockey League, for the players, because they don't get the opportunity with our schedules. Saturday, Sunday, you play holidays. You don't get into that a lot. So we need the chapel programs. We need support. The players deal with a lot of different things. They're just human like all of us, and that gives us strength.
One of the more important transactions that this organization ever made while you were the head coach was to go out and acquire Mike Fisher from the Ottawa Senators. Fish is a guy that has long had an affiliation with this ministry. You had him for a good number of years. What kind of impact does a guy like Fish have on your group? Seemed to me really added to the identity, was very much a stabilizing force. You agree with that?
Absolutely. Mike is one of my, you go through all the players that you coach, there's certain players that will always stand out. Mike will always be one of those guys that stands out. He's got balance. I always say that Mike Fisher, lot in life is not to be a great NHL player. It's a lot bigger. And best statement, in our sport, I'll probably tell you some things, but I used to do a thing where once in a while where you're not going so well, you change it up a little bit. And Rich Clune actually announced the starting lineup. And he said it best, and this is how our sport is. It's tough for players to understand this, but he announced Mike Fisher on the starting lineup. And he says, starting at center ice, number 12, Mike Fisher. He will knock your block off on Saturday night. He will pick you up and take you to church on Sunday. And you think about that, that is Mike Fisher. He plays hard. He plays for keeps. He plays all those, as a coach, you go, that he's a hockey player. And then what Rich said, he will pick you up and take you to church, and that's Mike Fisher. He's a guy that cares. He's a guy that understands life, and as I say, his lot in life is not to just be an NHL player; it's to be a lot more.
Barry, I know you have coaching responsibilities. Coach is going to head right across the street over to the Bridgestone. I think you guys are getting with morning skate at some point. I know that you have other obligations. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you taking some time to be a part of this event this morning, for sharing some of the memories from your tenure here as a beloved head coach of the Nashville Predators. Thank you once again for taking some time.
Well, thank you. It is an absolute pleasure coming back. It is an absolute pleasure to seeing all the passionate fans, great players like Dutch, who I know, Doc, who's one of the great voices, Beezer. These ministries have to happen, and thank you for being a part of it.
Thanks so much, Barry.